All right. Let us quickly see what we had done in macros last time, and we will continue from there. All right. Okay, so I'm just trying to recall. This is the example that I covered for you, right? Where we did relative and absolute, everyone.
No, sir.
No? Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. The reason I'm checking is because I do
We didn't do. We did VBA last time, sir.
yeah. No. It's the same thing. I was also opening that. It must be in a different folder. No, I found it. I was
We
doing
just did only one small example of
got
which
it.
it belongs. Yeah, this one.
Application.username, right?
Yeah, that's
Got it. Got it. Okay. So quick recap. Um, okay, what is the difference between VBA and macro? Anyone? You can just unmute yourself and tell me. That's easier rather than imagine this is a classroom, right? So in classroom, you will not be texting me, right? If I feel that there is too much chit chat happening, I will tell you. But as much as possible, do not put it on the chat window. Just try to chat with me, okay? Directly.
So VBA is a programming language which creates macros.
Absolutely. So macros is a general computing term. VBA is the specific language. So Visual Basic is the language. And there is a variant of VB created called VBA, which is Visual Basic for application. Why is it called VBA? Because interestingly, when you're doing coding on VBA, I don't need to have a separate application like Visual Studio, which is an integrated development environment. And why not? Because my IDE, my coding environment is within my Excel file. So it's very interesting, right? And it's not the only software that has it. If you look at SPSS, for example, SPSS also has the same thing, right? Where you can either click on buttons and get the result, or you can also write the code behind it. Okay. Then what format do we save the file in if you want to work with VBA?
XLSM.
XLSM. There is another one which I did not tell you, which is XLSB, right? So we are currently working on XLSM, but there is a third option called XLSB. These are the number 1, 2, and 3 options. Binary workbooks are a little different to XLSM, so I will not really get into detail. Sometimes the data that is given, which is a large data, that comes from SAP or from any other ERP, it might come in an XLSB format, but you can, for simplicity, assume that they are the same thing. So macros can be saved in both the macro-enabled workbook and in a binary workbook. There are certain cases where if the data is very large, 10 lakh rows, and if the Excel file is crashing or it is taking a lot of time to load, sometimes we save it as a binary workbook, and it helps, right? But you don't need to bother with it. In case in the future you ever see XLSB, you should at least know what it is. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, we are going to use XLSM. We already had enabled the developer tab, which was file and then options and then customize ribbon. That's only a one-time thing. And when I click on Visual Basic, the backend opens and I can toggle between them. So you don't need to close the VBA window to come back to Excel. You can work on both of them concurrently, right? Okay. Now, what we want to do here is, as you can see, on the left side, I have my Project Explorer. I have my Properties window. And if you close them accidentally, you can go to View and enable the Project Explorer and the Properties window. There are shortcuts as well, Control R and F. And we had inserted a module, right? So in my workbook, we insert a module. And in this module is where the actual code is being written. So our code was very simple. We said a subroutine. Okay, a subroutine is just a routine. It's a process where you're saying that I want to show a message box. The text will be hi, the system belongs to, and it's just concatenating. VB new line breaks it into a different line, and then I say application.user. I can run it directly from here as well by clicking on the run button, F5. In fact, in a lot of software, F5 is typically the button, the shortcut to run a code, not just in VB. And as you can see, if I click inside and I click on run, it runs, right? Very cool. Now, this was the first code. Any questions so far? And now we will learn how to copy a code from the internet. But before that, if you have any questions. Right? So far, so good. Okay, let me just put my phone on silent. All right, all good. The next thing I want you to do is to open Google, and there is a website called Stack Overflow. Okay. In fact, Stack Overflow was in the news recently because Stack Overflow has just been purchased, right? I think yesterday or 2 days back, 2 days back, right? So Process has purchased it for $1.8 billion. And this is also a huge, it's a very dramatic purchase has happened because Stack Overflow is essentially a developer community, right? So the fact that somebody else is owning it now, we don't know what will happen in the future. For example, if you look at GitHub, I'm sure all of you would have heard of it. Again, GitHub is again a developer community, and developer communities are usually best left alone, right? But the moment you say that developer communities are purchased by other people, then it becomes difficult, right? Okay, so if I may just show you once, just a second. Right. So $300 million, and it is owned by Microsoft now. So it's very interesting because pre-Satya Nadella, till Steve Ballmer was there, Steve Ballmer made many mistakes, right, at Microsoft. And one of the decisions that he took, even Bill Gates did that, was that they never believed in open source, right? They wanted to have a very closed ecosystem. We always say that Apple is the one who has a closed ecosystem, but the truth is Microsoft also has always been doing anti-monopolistic practices and all of that. But when Satya came in, that is when they realized the power of the cloud, right? Power of Microsoft Azure, and the fact that they wanted to work with developers. So everything they do now, they say we want to work with developers, we want to work with developers, right? So this was also a very big deal when GitHub was purchased. Now, today we are learning Excel, but then, like I said, tomorrow you have to learn coding. Whether it's VBA or TypeScript, that's a different matter, but you will be learning it. So it's important to have a level of familiarity. I'm not expecting you to be an expert, neither am I. But then just to show you how that works, why is it asking me to create an account? I'm sorry, just hold on. Let me log in with, I've completely forgotten what I had used to create my account first. But that's okay, it doesn't even matter. So Stack Overflow essentially is a developer forum where you can ask questions, right? Whatever questions you have. So let's say I have a question related to VBA. So I can type VBA here, right? So that's the tag. So let me say VBA. And you can see that it shows me the questions that people around the world have asked. So you have 16,000 questions, which is a lot. And then you have how do I avoid using select in Excel VBA. So I can click on it. I can see the question that somebody has asked. This is the upvote and the downvote, right? And then you notice there are different comments that have come, right? And you obviously have different answers that people have given. Now, Stack Overflow is a very interesting website because the moderation is done by the community themselves, right? If your question is bad, like I have done the foolishness of doing sometime, I remember I had asked a question and somebody downvoted my question, right? It's so crazy, right? Like, what did they say? They said that my question is not clear. And that's why the quality of content on Stack Overflow is so good, because the moderation community is so particular on making sure that the questions have to be good. No question is being repeated. In fact, when you're posting a new question, they will ask you again and again, are you sure that you have checked thoroughly that nobody else has asked this question and it has been solved earlier? And that's why, while you might say, Havish, just 16,000 questions when VBA has been there for 25 years, do keep in mind that you will find every question to be unique, right? Because nobody asks the same question over and over again. Do you really need to use it? Maybe not as far as VBA is concerned, but it's a good habit to build right now, okay? The next thing I would like everybody to do is to create an account on GitHub, right? Obviously, all of these things are free of cost. And GitHub has something called repos, right? So which are repositories. So like I have a few repositories here, right? I also have my own organization that I've created where there is a project in which different people are working. As you can see, I have the documentation for it. Yes, in the beginning, it will take you some time to get familiar with the interface and understand what it is. And, you will have to look at what others are doing. But trust me, these things you will thank me 3-4 years later when you're applying for jobs and, fintech jobs and jobs, techno-commercial profiles. That time you will realize that these are the sort of portfolios that organization would like to look at, right? So please make sure Stack Overflow, maybe it's not Stack Overflow so much, but definitely GitHub. Please make sure to create an account. Even if you're not doing much on it, at least create one, right? And as you can see, I can also search for VBA. And I'm searching for VBA in across all GitHub. You can see that there are many people who have created things on VBA. Some have created sample code, some have created instructions, some have created their own projects, right? So you can notice here, there are a lot of things that have been given here. The challenge is that you still have to learn how to find the right content. Okay, so you notice there are 20,000 repos, but then being able to find the right content is super important. If I show you my Excel links, you can see how much I have, right? For VBA codes, just look how neatly I've cataloged everything. And this is 7 years of work that I have cataloged in one place. So if you want to be in finance and if you want to be in a technical role and you want to work on VBA, please start building these habits. That's why I'm spending so much time on this. Okay. All right. And you can even say best VBA websites. And if you want a running start, so that at least to begin with, you don't have to go running here and there. Just say best VBA websites. And when you go to one good website, you will learn to find the others as well. Right? And you can see the Reddit community. I'm not sure how many of you are on Reddit. Reddit community is also very good at VBA. Right? Because people are very helpful and you'll find a lot of good content available. Right? Okay. Now, what we want to do is to search for a code, which is a ready-made code. How do we do that? I will type VBA code 2. Please do this with me, everyone. Just go on Google and type VBA code 2. Right? Now, these are the 3 magic words. So you type VBA code. Like you say Python code to a JavaScript code 2. Now we say VBA code. Now what do we want? We want to create a table of content. VBA code to create a table of content. All right. Please open this. I hope everybody is able to see the same link, the Spreadsheet Guru. This is again one of the best websites for VBA. Right? And when you scroll down a little bit, you can see that the entire VBA code has been given here. Okay. So now we know what a VBA code looks like. We know that it starts with SUB, which is for subroutine. And then if you scroll down, it should end with end sub. Okay. Just copy the entire thing, everybody, please. Just select. After selecting, you can press Shift down arrow to select everything. And make sure to select till the last line, which is end sub. Okay. And just do Control C. All good? Now come back to your VBA window and paste it. If you want to create a new module, you can do that, but you can also paste multiple subroutines in the same module. So I'm just pressing Control V here. Let me know if anybody had any trouble reaching this point, right? If you have done it correctly.
Show the path of where you copied it. Just one second.
From where I copied it? Are you referring to the website?
Yeah, that part.
Okay. I'll share it in the chat window. See, I could have shared the code with you just like that. It would have made my job easier. But I want you to get comfortable with the process of searching, going to a website, copying and pasting. All right. That's what developers have to do. All good? All right. Now, I'm sure all of you can expect what this code will do. Please make at least 3 sheets. Okay. They can be blank, it doesn't matter, but just make 3 sheets at least. Now, if I ask you to create a table of content, which everybody has to do, right? When you have so many worksheets that you're working on. And what we want is that it should say sheet 1 hyperlink, sheet 2 hyperlink, sheet 3 hyperlink, like this. I should have sheet 1, sheet 2. It will take you forever. What if you have 50 sheets, which is very common in finance? Now, what can I do? I can go to macros, all right? And then there is a macro called table of contents create. And when you click on run, see what happens. It will automatically create a new sheet called contents, and it will show you a list of all the 3 sheet names along with the hyperlink. So I can get a hyperlink as well. Is everybody able to do this? All right, now this part was very simple. Now, should you really learn the entire code? Maybe not. But then you should at least have a high level overview of the flow. You should understand how that code is flowing. So can somebody tell me what are the steps that you think have happened at the back end? What do you think we should first do in the code? Don't look at it. I mean, even if you look at it, you will not understand much. But what do you think should be the first thing that we should do? Since I wanted to automate this task, if you had to do it manually, what would you do? What is the first step?
Count the number of sheets.
Even before that, what is the first thing you will do?
Create a new sheet for table of
You create a new
contents.
sheet called what? Contents. But what if there is already a sheet called contents? Then what will happen?
Then select the target cell from where the value needs to start.
No. So what we want is, we want to say that if tomorrow another sheet gets added, right? And I run the macro once again, table of contents create run, you notice that it tells me a worksheet named contents has already been created. Would you like to replace it, right? So obviously the user should have control. How can Excel decide if something should be overwritten or not? What if I had a contents sheet that I had created? What if I accidentally delete it? So that's why I have to say yes, and it will delete the old one and create a new one. Now tell me, what do you think the first step should be?
Check the content sheet exists.
It should, exactly, it should check if exists. So it should check, is there a content sheet that is already there? Yes or no? Now, if a content sheet is there, it will ask for permission. You saw that box. And once you delete it, then we get started. Now, somebody said we will count how many sheets are there. So we essentially want all the sheet names, right? And we create what is called an array. Now, we have already done the concept of arrays in Excel, right? What does it mean? Array means it's a list of items that have been stored inside an array. So when we multiplied 4 cells by another 4 cells, how did we get 4 results? Because it was creating an array. First by first, second by second, third by third, fourth by fourth, right? It creates an array. Once it creates the array, then it has to come back to the content sheet, right? And it has to come to which cell? C3, right? C3 is what? Basically 3, 2, third row and the second column. It has to come to C3 and it will paste all names, and then it has to add the hyperlink as well. So that is a broad flow. Now let's come to the code. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm putting some comments here, which is with an apostrophe. Then I'm doing some declaration. Declaration is where you're defining the data type. So dim means declare. So I'm declaring that there is something called SHT, which is any name that I want to give, which is a worksheet. Then there is a content sheet, which is also a worksheet. My array is a variant. A variant means that it is a data type that can store anything. Because see, sheet names can be numbers as well, right? So variant means it's any type of data. Now, if you say, but Havish, how will we know all of this? Like you said, variant is a data type. Google it. This is how I learned and everybody learned. You say VBA, what is variant? And now it will tell you that a VBA variant is a variable that has not been declared to have a specific data type. So see, this process of going through a code, reading it, stopping wherever you find an issue, and then going back and checking. So even if you don't know what is dim, you can always say VBA, what is dim, right? And immediately it tells you dim is a dimension. That means we are declaring the variable name and their type. Is it difficult to do? It's not difficult. It's just something you have to build a habit to do. We all have to do it. Today, you will be searching for simple things. I also have to constantly search. I'm searching for more difficult things, right? But 80% of my time goes into this, going online, doing what is, right? That's the nature of coding, right? Whichever language you're working on. Coders do not just sit in front of a code and say, okay, I will not get up and I will not take coffee breaks unless and until I finish. It doesn't work like that. You have to go online, you have to search for results, you have to ask other people. That is how you become a coder, right? There's no other way. Anyway, so then I'm declaring a few things. You can do all this later. Then my input is my content name is equal to content. So basically I've given a name called content and I'm saving it in a variable called content name. Now we are doing some code optimization. See, what happens is that if you do not optimize the code, right? Let me see if I can show it to you. Let me just comment it once, the optimization, and rerun the code, okay? So macros and run. I think it was very fast. I'm not sure if all of you were able to see it, but there was a slight flicker that happened on my system. That flickering is happening because the code has to go to each sheet and take the name, okay? We don't like that because from a user experience, when we say UI and UX, UI and UX is not just for creating mobile applications. It is also for websites. It is also for codes. And this optimization basically says that screen flickering will not happen, right? If you look at this application display alerts, you know, these alerts that you're getting at the bottom, that flicker that happens, you can optimize all of that. Again, if you just go and search for it, you can see what it does, right? It's binary. You can set it to true or you can set it to false. So it will say here that these alerts and messages that come will be disabled for that time. But if you're turning it off, you have to remember to turn it on. So if you look at the final 2 lines of code, you have to turn it on. Please keep in mind, when you're working on VBA, you're working at a system level. If you turn it off and you forget to turn it on, it will always be turned off. It will never get turned on unless you manually come and turn it on. The shortcut for copy is Control C, correct? In a code, if you're using Control C for something else and you forget to undo it, or not undo it, but revert it, basically what will happen, your Control C will stop working on your computer, not just on Excel, on any other application. So you have to be very careful here that VBA has the ability of controlling many things on your system. So you have to be very, very careful. Mostly the damage will be restricted to Excel, but it is possible to damage other applications as well. Okay. What next? It will delete the content sheet if it already exists. That's what we discussed. It says select the content sheet, right? Can somebody tell me what does this line and this line mean? What does this mean? This line. On error resume next. Just guess. Okay, let me ask it to you in a different way. I'm asking VBA to activate, that means select the content sheet. Is it necessary that there is a content sheet in my workbook?
Oh, sir.
No. If I'm running my macro for the first time, that means there is no content sheet. If there is no content sheet, then how can I select it? Makes sense, right? So if I comment it, right, and I'm telling it, no, I want you to go and select the content sheet. And if you notice, I'm just changing it to something else. If I try to run the macro now, and I say, I don't care, go and select the content sheet. It says, I can't because you told me to select a sheet called contents, but there is no sheet called contents. Do you see this? It is saying that there is no sheet called contents. How am I supposed to select it? That is the reason in Excel we use if error, don't we? Exactly what we're doing here. We are saying on error resume next. So I'm basically telling Excel that if you find an error at this stage, skip it, ignore it. Don't stop because there was an error. So yes, I'm asking you to select the sheet. If you're not able to find a sheet, don't tell me that, oh, I found an error and the sheet isn't there. It will continue with the rest of the code. Okay. Then we say, if this, you should be able to understand, if the active sheet.name is equal to content name. Content name is nothing but contents, right? That is what we've already declared. Then what should happen? Then my answer should be equal to a worksheet name and content name, and has already been created. Would you like to replace it? So basically, we're telling that prompt that Havish, there is already a sheet called contents. Are you sure you want to delete it? Now, then we check if the user selected yes or no. If my answer is not equal to yes, basically, if the answer is no, then I say exit sub. Basically, I'm skipping the code. So I will not run the rest of the code. That means, see what happens. When I run the code, let me just call this content first. When I say run the code, right? If the user says no, it is exiting the code. That means it says, fine, I'm stopping the code right now. I'm not going to do the rest of the thing because nothing happens, right? That's what we're saying. If the user chooses no, then don't do anything else. Don't do all of this, exit the code. That is what is called an exit sub, right? But if the user is not selecting no, if assuming the user is selecting yes, then first you will delete the existing sheet. Then obviously you have to create the new sheet. Can somebody tell me what is this? Worksheets.add before worksheets one. Just try to guess. After we have deleted the content sheet, what is this to?
So put the new worksheet on number 1.
It is putting a new worksheet. But what is a one referring to?
In the
So
beginning,
at the beginning, number 1.
Exactly.
Beginning.
That is the index number. So tell me which is the one index number right now. If the content is not there, which is the one right now?
sheet 5.
Sheet 5, right? So that means that I'm not looking at the name. I'm also not looking at the order in which the sheets were created, because it is possible that the sheet 5 was created much before the other sheets. The one here refers to the index number, the position. So I don't want a content sheet to come after everything, right? I want to come as the first sheet. That's why we're saying as one. Okay. Then we are doing set. Set basically says that the active sheet should become my content sheet, whichever sheet we are currently working on. And obviously we're working on the content sheet right now. So let me just run it once again. Right? Then I'm running here. And this is basic formatting. What am I doing? In B1, I'm writing table of content. I'm also making it bold. So in B1, I wrote table of content. I made it bold. After that, this is the slightly difficult part, this part. Okay. So here I'm creating an array. And like somebody said correctly, I'm saying 1 to worksheets.com. How many worksheets are there right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 3, 2, and 1. That means 4. So I'm saying that it is creating 4 worksheets. And I'm essentially creating an array using that. So I'm saying for each sheet in my active workbook worksheet. In my active workbook, we have 4 sheets. So for each sheet, if the sheet name is not equal to the content name, then I basically want to say that my array x+1 is equal to sheet name. So I'm essentially taking the name of each sheet and I'm saving it inside the array. Right? Can somebody tell me what is this 1 to worksheets.count in -1? Think.
Start from the number 1 worksheet and in total of worksheets subtract.
Why are we doing that?
For example, if there are,
why are we doing
because
-1?
content sheet needs to be subtracted.
No, but the content sheet we are checking here, if the first sheet is the content sheet or not. See, what we are doing here is the index position is always 0. So contents is actually not, when we are creating an array never has 1 as the starting point, an array has 0 as the starting point. So that means, can you understand what we are doing? Contents has already been created so far, right? What is this? This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's very interesting because if I count them, the answer is 5. But if I look at the position is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, everyone? And that's the reason I have to say -1. Because otherwise, what will happen? The number will increase by 1. You can, again, wherever you get stuck, you can just say. Now, this is a little difficult because you will have to search for the exact thing. But when you say VBA, array index start, right, it will tell you that the array index starts from 0. Okay. So that means that if it is 5, that means that it can hold 6 values. Right. So that means that if the count is 5, it is actually holding 5 sheets. But if the array size is 5, if the array size is 4, that means it is holding The array range is from 0 to 4. That means it is holding 5 sheets. I know this part is, like I said, a little difficult, but I've at least started explaining this to you. Okay, then rest is simple. So once I've done this, then I have to alphabetize sheet names in array list. So I'm saying from my lower bound to my upper bound. That means I have created a list of all the sheet names, which is sheet 5, sheet 3, sheet 2, sheet 1. And then I'm saying for y is equal to x to upper bound. So I'm starting from the lowest value till the last item in my, we call them items in the array. If uppercase is less, anyway, I'm not getting into so much detail now. Explaining arrays are a little difficult, but like I said, you can Google it. So if you want to know what is readem, which is where you redefine an array, you can just say readem VBA, and it will explain what is readem array. So this creates a resizable dynamic array, similar to what we did on Excel formulas as well. Right? The rest is very simple. After this is done, you have to activate the sheet and you have to do this. Can somebody tell me what is this? What does this mean? The line that I've highlighted.
So it says moving to column C basically.
It is selecting which column?
Stretch the column
Column
C
C.
and fit it.
And it is doing this. When I write something which is not fitting inside the column, do we not do this? Double click. That's what we do, right? So that the name fits completely. So this is what I'm doing. I'm doing that auto fit, right? So that's what you can see here, that in third column, I'm doing an auto fit so that if the sheet name is very long, I don't have to come and manually increase it. This part is just the formatting. So this, this colors and all that we have put, that is a part that you can see here. And also I'm making sure that my zoom level is 130. How cool is that? That means that when the code is run, it will not happen that it is like this or it is like zoomed in too much. So I can also set the zoom level, which we usually do manually using VBA. So I can say that the zoom level should be automatically set to 130. Okay. Any questions now? Now we've gone through the entire code. Anything you would like to ask? Are you feeling more comfortable now with how VBA works? Guys, I mean, yes or no? Are you feeling more comfortable now?
It's a double-edged sword, I'll tell.
Sir, I have one question.
Currently,
I'm sorry, say that once again.
it's a double-edged sword. Like I am half sure that I'm more comfortable and more confused seeing everything.
That's good. That's good. I think the moment any developer says, especially developers, say that, I think I understand it, I think you're doing something wrong. In fact, just taking an extra minute to show you. Just give me a moment. Okay. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this is very true for what we're doing. So when we start doing something, it seems very fun and very easy. And then suddenly you drop because you realize that, what, after you spend 2-3 days on it, you give up. You say, what, I will never be able to do it. And then over a period of time, I think this is not the correct one I wanted to show you. There's an even better one. But yeah, you can call it a joke, but then we actually use it in trainings and corporate, where we teach people that you have to understand that there is a learning curve. Just a minute. Not able to. Oh, this is the one. Yeah, it's called something. I'm not really sure what it is called, but anyway. So we say that you start with a high. You do one training and you feel, oh my God, I think I know VBA and I can start writing codes, and then you immediately drop because you start to realize, oh my God, I know so little, right? And there is so much to study. Like if there is 100-line code, you will realize that every second line you will have to do a Google search, and every time you do a Google search, you will spend 30 minutes reading an article. So your original plan might be that, oh, in one day after today's training, in this weekend, I'm going to sit and practice with 5 codes. And you will realize that you have not even been able to complete one code. I'm telling this to you is to explain to you that this period is where, the boys differ from the men and the girls differ from the women. Whereas that you have to not give up, right? So you have to make sure to keep on working, and over a period of time, it will start to add up. It will start to make sense, right? So please keep this in mind. The book that I read was VBA Power Programming when I started learning VBA. And I just used to read the book cover to cover. I can't tell you how many times I've read it. And even though I did not understand all of it, I just used to read it. And then over a period of time, I became more familiar with it, right? So this is the book, Excel Power Programming by Michael Alexander, okay? Also, a good starting point would be the Dummies Guide. I don't know if you have read the Dummies Guide earlier, any one of their publications. It's a Wiley publication. It is really good, right? Because the Dummies Guide, I think, just gives you the right starting point. You know, it's not too much information, but it gives you enough information. So VB programming for
More than
dummies.
anything, I feel Dummies Guide creates a mental framework for you.
Always. I don't know why. You know, in India we have this problem. They look at the name and they say, no, this is not for me. What is embarrassing about admitting you don't know a topic? So Python, R, there are so many things that I've started learning from Dummies Guide. The final thing I want to show you is something called Goal Kicker. I don't think you have heard of it. Goal Kicker are free programming books, 100% free of cost. And like I said, they are for programming, so most of this will not be relevant for you. But they also have one on VBA. Okay, and this is a very dense book, right? So it's 100 pages where they explain almost everything you need to know, and it's free of cost, right? So you should definitely have a look at this Goal Kicker. And in the future, if you want to learn other programming languages, you should definitely have a look at this, right? And if you notice, if I can just take you through it, it starts with the most basic thing. So it tells you what is a shortcut, how to enable the developer tab. Same thing that I told you, isn't it? How to go to customize ribbon, how to enable developer tab, how to open a macro, what are the different segments in the interface. And then they start with the basics, how to declare variables and so on and so forth. It will take you some time to go through it, and you will have to read it a few times. Like, it seems very simple at first glance, but when you start reading it, you realize that there's a lot that you will have to practice with. But Goal Kicker, I think, is a good idea as well to start off with. Before you come to that VBA programming book. Okay, the official Microsoft documentation is not very good, so ignore it. I mean, it's okay, but it's not very systematic, so I think you should not do it. For the channel on YouTube, you can go to Excel Macro Mastery, right? And Paul Kelly is really good. He's a VBA expert. Even though most of his videos are quite advanced, but these are short videos. So just to get a sense of what all VBA can do, maybe you can have a look at it, right? And I really recommend it. Right? Excel Macro Mastery. Great. Yeah, so that's what we did. We have seen how the interface looks. We have also copied the code from the internet. Another thing you should all do is top VBA codes. Very nicely, people have helped you. And as you can see, people have already given you a collection of 100, 25, 30 VBA codes. So this is one that I like, Excel off the grid. And what they have done is they've essentially given you small snippets of codes. Let me show you. Like this. Right? So how to hide all selected sheets, how to unhide all the sheets, how to protect all the sheets at the same time, right? Like this. And this is a great way to copy, practice, and also learn it at the same time. Like, let me just show you one. Okay, look at this one, everybody. First, let me run the code, and then I want to show you how it works. I'll create a new module. Okay, let me run it, and then you see what it does. This is my folder right now, where I have 2 Excel files and 1 VBA file. I'm going to run this code. So let me come to Excel and macros, and I will run this code. It's called saved a time stamped backup. Right? Run. It works. Let's see what happened. Now, if I go back to the folder, do you see what it did? It has automatically created a copy of my file, and it has kept, I'm not really sure what is 210610. I don't know. Can somebody help me with this? 06 is okay. Oh, 21. For some reason, the YY is coming before.
Yeah.
It's YY MMDD that we can change, and this is the timestamp. Now, you might say, what's the big deal? The big deal is, ask yourself, that's the problem with VBA. You speak to people who do not know it, and they'll be the one who will criticize your work without knowing anything. They will say, oh, but I could do it manually. But you will have to do it manually, right? You'll have to go to File, Save As. You will have to select the folder, make sure that the time is coming correctly, the format is coming correctly. Sometimes you will put an extra space, stuff like that. And now if you go through the code, it should make sense. What am I doing? I'm saying save as name, active workbook.path and a slash and this. Okay. So what are we doing? We are trying to save the file in the same path. So this path is not changing, correct? And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, tell me the active workbook.path. Add a slash. Okay. Can somebody tell me what this is? Just guess. Let me give you a hint. I can either write it like this, or I can write it like this. I can either write my code in one line, or I can do it like this. What is this underscore?
Break the code.
Say that again.
So break the code.
Absolutely. If you have a very long line of code and you want to break it into 2 lines, you can do it with an underscore. Again, I still remember I had Googled it long back. So you can say VBA, what is underscore at end of code, right? And you can see that. No, end of line. Okay. A space followed by an underscore tells VBA that the current statement is not finished, but it continues on the next line. So it splits the line of code into 2 lines. Right? That's what you have to do. Never think to yourself, it is such a silly question or a basic question. Why should I Google it? I'm sure nobody else has asked it. You can see, you'll find even on forums and blogs, you will see that people have written the same thing. People have asked the same question. Okay, right. So that's what we're doing. We're saying that active. Let me put it in one line. That's easier. I'm saying my active workbook dot path. Then I'm putting a slash. Then I'm changing this, so you can see that I've written the YY format in. I can also change it to whatever DDMM YY. Then I'm taking my R minute second. Then I'm adding a space and then the active workbook dot name. And how do you save it? You'll say active workbook dot save copy as file name is this name that we have given. So I hope it makes sense. Like this, when you go through these codes and one by one you copy it, run it, obviously it will work. And then you try to understand how it is working, maybe do some Google search. Trust me, if you've done these 33 codes or whatever number has been given here, 30 codes, you'll feel so much more confidence. And this is how you start your journey. After this, it's mostly working on real projects and spending sleepless nights. But to create a foundation, this is the correct way to go about it. All right, great. The next thing I want to show you before we wrap up VBA and we start with Power Query is 2 things. One is we want to learn how to record a macro, super important. And the second thing is I want to show you how to create a user form. We'll create a very simple user form, but you will learn how to create softwares, so to say, pseudo softwares inside Excel. Let's come to record macro first. Just give me a moment. I'm just trying to find the correct list we don't need. All right. Can all of you do something for me? Yeah, just type what I'm typing. Okay. On any sheet, it doesn't matter which sheet. Just type name, sales, AB, and 1 and 2. That's it. Nothing else. Okay. And please save a copy here as well in column ENF. Right? Okay, now we will do it together. And no, in fact, I don't want you to do it with me. I want you to do the user form with me. This part is very simple. The process is not difficult. The difference between relative and absolute reference is difficult. Right? So please don't do it with me. In any case, I'll be sharing the file with you. That's why I put it in the same folder so that you can go back and practice it or watch the code again. Please watch and pay attention. In developer, I will go to record macro. What does it say? It says that every command it says that every command that I perform will be saved so I can play them back again. Let me click on this button. It asks me for a name. I'm going to call it first. Very simple. Okay. Now, how do you know that the code is being recorded? One is that here it says stop recording, and at the bottom also you get a stop button. Okay. That's how you identify that a macro is being recorded on your system right now. Now, macro recording has nothing to do with time. So if I don't do anything for the next 5 minutes, nothing will get recorded. Okay. Macros only record your keystrokes. So if I press A, if I press Alt Tab, whatever it is that I do, if I reduce the size of the window, if I move my mouse to a different cell, all of these actions are recorded. So what I want to do here is, I will click on A1, okay? I will come here and write total, and here I will write sum of 1 and 2. Very simple. Let me stop the recording. Let us see if I can repeat the macro. Now, when I run my macro call first, look what happens. I will click on run, and instantaneously, the same actions have been repeated. Okay. Tell me something. If I start from F8 and I run the macro, will it work or not work? If my starting position is F8, will it work or not work? What is your guess?
It will work.
So I go back to macros and I say first and I click on run, and it still works. All right. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? That the fact that it is running on the same set of cells, even if I've selected a different cell to begin with.
It is working the recorded path, right? So it's bound to do that. You have recorded it in that way, so to start doing the whatever.
But that means that what if I want to record, what if I want to play the macro on column E and F? I have the same template. I have name and sales, and I have something here, right? The problem is that now I can't run it on E and F. Now this is not making sense, because when we say that we are receiving a new file every day and a macro will help us automate my tasks, is it necessary that you're receiving exactly the same file every day? Maybe not. That is where we write something called a relative reference. So if you see this button, everyone, initially I did not click on this button. So you notice that it was not pressed. But when I click on this button, you notice that it has been pressed. It's like a switch that you're turned on. Let me record it once again. Okay, please watch. I'm starting from A1. So I will say record macro and I'll call it second. Right? Why does it say second already exist? Doesn't matter. Let me record it again. I don't know what happened. Hold on. Just give me a moment. That's strange. Okay, let's try once again. Okay, maybe it's conflicting with something. Let me give a different name. So let's just call it second underscore macro. Right? Yeah. Now we'll do the same thing. I will do down, 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 total. Come to the right, and I'll write equal to sum of this. Right? Stop the recording. Now this time, if you notice, if I start from some other cell and I click on my second macro and I run it, it runs the place where I ran it. So it is not running on A1, it is running from my current location. That obviously means that if I come to name and I run my second macro, it will still work. Now tell me, which one is more useful? Which one do you think is used more? The absolute one or the relative one? I'm not able to hear you. It's just static that I hear.
Relative.
No, it's both.
Hello.
See, there are many cases where you want a macro to record and play at the same location every single time. Okay? Because even if the user runs the macro from this cell, I want it to record on A and B only. There are certain cases where you can record a macro in one place but repeat it in any other location. In fact, when I'm recording, while I'm recording, I can also turn the recording on and off in the middle of my recording. So a lot of people think it's binary. They say, oh, I can either record an absolute or I can record an or a relative. No, that's not true. You can start with an absolute. In the middle, you say, no, this part should be relative. Then you turn it back to absolute. So that is how you can customize it. Right? Okay, now let's look at the code, everybody, and tell me if it makes sense. I'm just deleting all the things we don't require so that it's cleaner for you. Look at it, try to understand it yourself first, and then tell me if it makes sense. The first is my absolute, okay? So I just call it macro ABS, and I'll call it macro REL. Okay, tell me what percentage of the lines of code have you understood? 20%, 80%, 50%? Anyone? Okay, let's see. What is the first thing that I did in the absolute macro? I'm also going to show them to you at the same time so that you can also look at the code in the Excel file at the same time. Okay. See, I selected A4. Remember? One second. I selected A4 and then I said, in my active cell, I need to write a value. Now you might say, but Havish, it doesn't say value. It says formula. That's just the syntax. Basically, you're writing total. So when we wrote total here, it said total. Then I selected B4 and what did I write? I wrote sum of R minus 2C, R minus 1C. Let me explain this part. So when I'm writing sum, right, what is it selecting? It is selecting, if I can highlight it for you, it is selecting 1 and 2 rows up, okay, till 1 row up, but on the same column. That's why you notice it says that in the same column, so my column is blank. In the same column, I selected R minus 2. So that means I did 1 and 2. So I went 2 rows up till where? Minus 1. That means from here I did 1 row up. Make sense? Now what happened in the relative one? Relative said that if I started on A1, it is not noting A1. It says I started on my active cell and I did offset 3, 0. That means from my first cell, how many cells did I come down? 1, 2, 3. Okay. But why is it 0? Because I'm on the same column. So 3 rows down on the same column. And A1 is not actually the cell A1. A1 means that from my starting cell. So if my starting cell is A1 or B1, whatever it is, right? It means that from this, let's say from here, when I go 3 down, it says that A1 is your A1 because that's the starting point and you're moving 1, 2, 3 down. What did I put here? I put the value called total. After that, I did 0, 1 because I moved 1 column to the right, which means from here I moved here. I'm moving 1 column to the right and then I wrote the same formula. Does it make sense? Everyone?
Sir, it will work on the 2 lines only. Like, what if we have 3 lines? Then this will work.
Just hold on. I'm not sure why the volume is so low. Is it a problem on my end or on your end? Just a minute. Everything seems to be okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you just be a little louder? I think I'm facing some audio issue.
Yes. Sir, what if there is 3 lines? We want to
very good observation. Absolutely. Very good observation. Now the problem is if I run it again, tomorrow if I have an E and I say 6, tell me if I run the code, what will happen? It will come here, it will write total and it will write sum. Because we told it you have to come 3 rows down. So in a way, if you think about it, even this is not exactly what will help us. So what I want to do now is, please watch everybody. I will say, once again, developer, I want to select my macro as relative, okay? But there's a small difference, just watch. This is my final macro, okay? So this is my final macro. I will not press down, down, down. What will I press? Can anybody guess? How do you jump from the first cell to the last cell in a column? What is a shortcut?
So control down arrow.
Control down. Now when I do control down, Just hold on. I actually should not be opening both of them at the same time. 1 second. Record macro, final underscore macro. Okay. Start at the first cell. So record macro, final underscore macro. Okay. Do I want to replace it? I do. Now watch. Control down. Then I press down once again. I write total. Then I go to the right and I say sum of this two. Let me stop it. Let me first see if it is working or not. If I run it with my first one, which is final macro, and I also have to make sure to start at the first cell. So I will say started name, final macro. It works. But the best part is if tomorrow I'm adding more values, I can now do macros and final macro and run, and it still works. Okay. That sum is not coming because that sum we did not select properly. So let me do it one final time because I will be sharing this file with you. So one final time, final underscore macro. I wanted to control down equal, sorry, total. Then I come to the right, I say equal to sum, but don't select it like I did, right? What you should be doing is up arrow, control shift up arrow, and then down arrow, right? And if I've done it correctly, I think it should work now. So let's run my final macro. And it's still not working. Actually, the problem here is, just a minute. Hold on. Let me also think. Let me add one more value. Okay, and let me record it. Let's call it final macro. I will do control down. This is okay. I write total. Okay. Let me do one thing. After writing this, I'll come to the right and I'll press Alt equal to, which will select B2 to B4. Okay. And let me stop the recording. What I want to check now is what has been recorded here. Is it still selecting R minus 3? It is still selecting R minus 3. That means that there is a problem. So how do I tell it that I essentially want to go back up and select everything? That's strange. Why is it so different? Hold on. Equal to sum. I do control shift up arrow and then down arrow and enter. And yeah, I think this will still have to be. So basically, we'll do this in the next example as a matter of fact. So as you can see, the problem here is that there's 3. Let me just delete everything else. See, the total is working correctly. Why? Because, look at this. The total is working correctly because now I did not do down, down, down. Earlier we were doing 3, 0. This time I did selection.end Excel down, which is your control down arrow. But the problem here is that it is still selecting the number of values that were there the first time. So this is something we'll have to make dynamic. That's what I did, Nitin. I tried that as well. But the problem is that the first time there were a certain number of values. So it will continue to pick up the same number of values. We'll have to be a little smart here. But we will learn this in the example we are going to do now, how to make it dynamic. But at least we have spotted what is the problem. This part is a problem. This minus 3 is not correct because that minus 3 has to, minus 1 is okay, but minus 3 can change. So somehow I have to find that value. Anyway, you can do this later. So now what I want is to do an example with you. Great. Please make a new sheet and call this our user form. Everyone, make a new sheet and call it our user form. Right? And my objective is I have name and sales, or let's just say name and age. Right? I have my name and age, and I want to put a name and an age. Very simple. So let me just start with one. Now, what I would like is that usually the user will have to come to that cell and put a name and an age, right? Which is a data entry. I don't want that. What I want is a software, so to say, it's a pseudo software where they, like when you go online, don't you see a pop-up? In that you can put your name and age and click on submit and automatically it gets added to the database. That is what we want to create. Okay. So essentially, I will have, if I can just create a skeleton for you, what I want to have is, I want to have a form, and this form will have an option in which I can insert my name. Right? Below that, I can insert my age, and then I click on submit. Right? And the moment I do that, this name will come below this name, and this age will come below this age. Right? That's what we want to create. Let's start. Let's come to code. For this, we need to create a user form. So please right click on modules. Right, everyone? Right click on modules and insert. Like earlier, we had inserted a module. This time we want to insert a user form, which is just a form that will either present some data or take an input from the user. And you should get a form like this. Right? You can also increase or decrease the size of the form as you wish. And I want to change the name and the color. I don't like to call it user form 1. So in the properties, the name is the actual name. That is not what we want to change. I want to change the caption. So we change it to entry form. Keep on doing it with me. Wherever you have an issue, just stop me and I will help you. In the caption, we are calling it entry form. Do not change the name. The name will remain user form 1. Now in the user form, I would like to change the background color. So in the back color, you notice that we have a very limited number of colors here. So I only have, I think 64. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 48. I only have 48 colors available. But that's very limiting, isn't it? See, VBA is a very old language. This is a time when monitors would not even support more than this. So they have never bothered to update it. So I'm not going to use it because this forces me to use one of the 48 colors that has been given. And I don't like that. I would like to keep a color of my own. Like my brand color is a specific RGB. I would like to keep that. So even though we can change it like this, if you want to, I'm not doing that, right? So please don't change it. Just keep it the default, whatever the gray is. Okay? In this user form, we need to have 2 labels and 2 text boxes. So in this toolbox that you see, please select a label and a text box. Take your time. Just drag it like this. And then in the caption, I can call it name. And here you will want to change the back color so that you can see what it is. Just make it white. Just copy and paste it. It's almost like working on PowerPoint, a little more difficult probably, but then you have to get used to it. Name and this is the age. Right? And then I will also insert a text box. And finally, a command button. So I'm highlighting everything for you. This is my label, right? Then I have my text box. Okay. And finally, we have our command button. Don't be in a hurry. Take your time and do it properly.
Sir,
Okay.
once again, can you repeat how you wrote name inside that box?
Sure. You click on the box and then you come to the caption in the properties window.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Because if you double click, oh, by the way, if this ever happens, right? So accidentally, if you double click and you want to go back to the code, just double click on the user form again. It might happen. You might double click accidentally. Just go back to user form. and this should be called submit. Right? And let me change the color to don't worry about the placement too much. That all you can do later. But actually the label is also not needed. But if you are creating something, let's create something good. Right? So that's why I kept the label, 2 text boxes, and the command button. Right? Now it is considered a convention to call the command button CMD. Now this time I'm changing the actual name. Okay, so I'm calling it CMD underscore submit. And please make sure to press enter. Right, everyone? So the submit button should be called CMD underscore submit. The text box should be called TXT underscore name, and then the age should be called TXT underscore age. Okay? So TXT underscore name, TXT underscore age, and CMD underscore submit. You can give a different name as well if you want to, but try to give the same name that I have given. All right. Okay, just wait for 1 minute. If you're getting stuck anywhere or something is not working, just ask me, right? I mean, don't try to fight it. Just ask me and I'll be happy to help. Right? Okay. Now we need some code that will show the form, because otherwise, if I'm on Excel, how do I even make the form appear? Like there has to be some button, isn't it? So I need to have a button which enables the user to open the form. So I want you to insert a shape. Nothing special, just insert a shape. That's all. Right? Don't do anything else, just make a rectangle, and just if you want to write open form inside it. Let's come back. Now we want to write a single line of code that will open the form. Now what is the name of the form? User form 1. Okay. So let me go to a module. Just make a new module, so that there is no confusion. Just insert a new module. And I can also change the module name here. So let me call it user form module. If you notice, the module only has one property, which is the name, nothing else. So please insert a new module and call it user form module. And then you write sub show form. And there should be user form 1 dot show, like this. Right? So change the name of the module and just a single line of code, user form 1 dot show. So this is the subroutine that we have created. And how do I connect it to that shape? Very simple. I can right click on the shape and assign a macro. So I can make the shape as a shortcut or a trigger to run the macro. And what is the macro called? It is called show form. As you can see, right click, assign macro, and just select the macro. And as you can see, when I click on this, the form will open. Please, let's take a small pause here and tell me if anybody has any trouble till this point. After this, we'll continue.
So could you go back to the code once again?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Right? Is everyone able to get to this point? Obviously, if I type something here, nothing will happen because the button is just a button. It's just a shape. It doesn't do anything right now. Now we have to come back and we have to write the code inside the user form. That means I'm going to double click on the form. Just select any blank area and double click on the form. Right? And whatever you see, there might be a few things. Just delete everything. Once again, I have my form, everyone. I will double click on the form and it says user form click. So this is what we call an event or a trigger. So when a user clicks on the user form, what should happen? But why do I need that? Why do I need somebody to click on the user form? So I want a person to activate. That means not a person to activate. So wherever the user form gets activated, something should happen, right? So please select activate here and delete this click. You don't need to type it. Remember, you can just select activate from here. You have a list of different events that have been given. The first thing that we should do, remember, is to change the color, right? And I just want to use any color. So let's select an RGB value, which is 37119 Okay, so I'll say that user for one dot back color is equal to RGB 27119 and 206. Whatever color, let's put any RGB code. User form one dot back color is equal to RGB 2790 206. If you have done it correctly, then the color should change when the form opens. Right? Any questions, anyone? And let's go back to the code. Let's go back to the form. The other, now this is the important part, right? I want to click on submit, double click on submit, like this. So you double click on submit. So it says that, fine, Havish, when you click the command button called submit, what should happen? Now, obviously, the value from the text box should go in A3 and the value should go in B3. Everyone? A3 is what? The third row and the first column, and B3 is what? The third row and the second column. So I will say that cells, that means in my spreadsheet, in the third row and the first column, the value should be what? Should be equal to txt. Remember, that's the name that we had given, txt underscore name dot value. Just showing you how it works. So if I write Havish here and I click on submit, the value gets added to the cell. Please try this out, everyone. Let me do both of them. And 3 comma 2 dot value should be equal to age dot value. if at all somebody is not able to follow 100%, maybe for whatever reason, in any case, I'll be sharing the file with you, right? The T2 file. So you can always go back and use my code and try to copy and paste it or type it yourself. Right? So don't worry too much about actually doing it. See, doing it with me today is just the first baby step. After this, your journey will start. You have to spend many, many hours and sleepless nights learning VB and working on it. So don't worry too much about it, the doing part of it. That's not important. Ask me questions, anything that you find is it is not making sense or you feel could it have been done differently. Those are the sort of questions I want you to ask me. You can copy and paste, anybody can copy and paste. That's not the difficult part, right? But any questions that you have, like why is it this way? Why is it that way? Like this equal to, a lot of people get confused. They say, why are we checking if the value from the cell is equal to the text? The equal to stands for what? Is an assignment, right? Not an equality. So in coding, when we say equal to, it can in certain cases mean that we are checking is the value equal to, but in this case, we are not seeing if the value in the cell is the same as the value in the user form. We are assigning it. So we're taking the value from the text box and we are putting it inside the cell. Right? So if we have done this, now I can say, let's say, Anmol 34, submit, and the value will come. Very cool. But the problem is that if I put one more value here, if I say Talha and 26, obviously the value will get overwritten on the third row. So what do you think we should do now? Anyone? What do you think we should do now? Anyone?
I think we have fixed like cells 3.1 and 3.2. So we should change that, I guess.
Okay. So we need to find the last record row automatically. That's what we want to do, right? Why did I write 3? Because I knew that there was one record, the heading and the first record. So the next value will come in 3. But how do I know which is going to be the next record? So I have to find this number automatically. And this is what we call the last row. So when I Google it, you don't need to Google it. I will type it and you can copy it from there. I will just type VBA last row. So this tells me how do you find the last row in VBA. And can you see there are so many different ways of doing it. This is one of the most important things. Because whenever you're working on a database, obviously you need to know how many records already exist. Otherwise, how will you append one more record? Makes sense, right? So let me just open a link. Anyone. And this is what we need to do. So I'm saying that the last row should be equal to cells.rows.count. In which column? In column A. And I'm doing Control Shift up. Let me explain you how this is working. If I want to find the last row, what is the correct way of doing it? If I tell you that it's a large data and I'm asking you tell me the last record, how will you do it?
So control down.
No. And you know why? Can you guess? Can you guess the problem? Will control down work?
If there are breaks in between.
Breaks, it will have an issue with it.
It is possible, isn't it? So that's why control down is absolutely correct. I'm happy you gave that answer. But control down cannot work because I don't know if there are blank rows or not. So now tell me, how do you find the last?
Control end, I guess.
Control end will actually take me to the last of another column as well. So that might not be what we want, right? Also, if there is some stray value here, control end will take me to that. See, what we do is I first come to the last row of the worksheet, which is what? Always 1048,576. And what do we press? Everyone. How do I come back to the last row if I want to go up?
Control up.
Control up. Is this guaranteed to always find the last row? Yes or no? Absolutely. See, control down is not guaranteed to give you the last row, because if you have blank rows, then you're stuck. It will not go beyond that. But if I go backwards, if I say, no, let me go to the last row of the worksheet and I press control up, is this not guaranteed to give you the last row? Of course it is. So that is why, what are we doing? We are saying that in my workbook, what is dot rows dot count? How many rows do we have in the worksheet? 10,48,576. So it is saying 1048,576. I can also write 1048,576 here. In which column? In column A, and I'm doing dot end Excel up. That means I'm pressing control up. That means from A 1048,576, which is A 1048,576, I did control up arrow. And how do I show you what the result is? Let me just write message box, last row. Okay. Let me run this. Okay. And see what happens. I'm just commenting this part. If I run these 2 lines of code, what answer should we expect? It should give us 8, right? Let's see. So when I run it, it tells me 8, right? If there was a value here, S, and I run it again, it tells me 14. So it is now always telling me correctly which is the last row that we have. Very cool, right? So see, this is how you make dynamic dashboards. Even in Excel, leave VBA. Remember in that match function that I showed you? Do you recall this? Equal to match. What were we searching for? Does anybody remember? What was the lookup value? I'll give you a hint. It started with 9 point 98 plus 99. Where are we searching? In column A. And what type is it? It is a less than match. I'm sorry. One second. What mistake am I making now? No, wait. 90 plus 99 is correct. AA is correct. Is it the type that I'm making a mistake with? Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't work with text values. It works with numbers, right? That's why it's not working. It only works with numbers, right? But you're able to relate, right? That's sort of what we are doing in VBA as well. In Excel, if you want to search for the last record with a number in it, you can do match like this. Even though the logic is a little different, it's not the same. I mean, the way it works is different, but the goal is the same. The objective is the same, right? Okay. Good. Now tell me, let's just finalize the code now. So I can remove this message box. Okay, what should we do? Guys, what should we do now? What do I need to change here?
Last row, comma 1.
No, not last row. Think. If my last record is in the 14th row, will I put the new value also in the 14th row?
Last row plus
plus 1. Make sense? Now this will be last row plus 1. Why do we not need to change the column? Because the column is the same, column A and column B. Let me just run it once so that you can check the result, and then I'll show you the code again. Open form, I write a new name, Anmol, 34, right? And you notice it comes here. Let's come back. I put another name, another number, and it comes here. So these are your beginnings of learning how VBA works, right? So you can look at the code now. Like this. right? Any questions, anyone?
Could you show the Excel ones, like how it's coming?
I click on the trigger. I write a name. So I write a new name. I put an age, and I click on submit, and it comes.
Somehow it's not coming for me.
Are you getting an error, or is the result not coming properly?
Mine is replacing the same two. I'm putting
Yeah.
last row +1, but it's
No
replacing the first two.
Just make sure this +1 and all has been written correctly. Last row +1.
Okay, do I need to? Okay, I have to write this also, right? Last row cells this full one.
Say that again.
The first command, like above that, this one.
That is how you find the last row, right? You have to first find which is the last row, for which you're using from A104856. You're pressing Control up. You can also write rows.com. Same thing. So same thing will work. Either way you do it. So either you can write rows.com or you can write any big number. So the last row of the worksheet. And this is always guaranteed to give you the last row, even if you have blank rows. Right. So once again, first we created a user form. We created two text boxes, one command button and two labels. In the user form, we said that when the form is being activated, we want to change the back color. We want to find the last row in column A, and then +1, we want to put the name and the age. Now we can do other things. For example, I can say, put new values. So after the person has selected the name and the age, the problem is, you notice that this boxes do not get deleted. But from a good user experience, what should happen? These should get removed so that the user can enter another name and another age. So I will now say that put new value. So I will say that text name dot value is equal to blank. And same thing, I will say text age is equal to blank. And I can also say text underscore name dot set focus. Right? Let me show you what these things are doing. Put new values. So I'm making them blank and I'm setting the focus on the name. Look at the user experience now. I'll open the form. I will write something. The moment I click on submit, you notice that my cursor automatically moves to name and the two values get removed so that I can enter a new name. That's the user experience part of it. So see, when we do app development, a lot of us feel, why do we care about app development being from finance? But from a finance user experience, you have to understand that user forms will be used extensively. In fact, if you Google it and you say finance user forms VBA, look at this. There are a lot of people, who have created user forms for finance. See, you will not find a lot on the internet because these are mostly internal documents. So, I mean, it's not publicly available, but you can take my word for it that it's created, it used extensively. like at the big fours and all, they use it so much. Let me also show you how like this was a simple example, but let me show you how a nice big user form will look like. Okay, watch this. This is something I did for a client many years back in 2017. So this is an entire vendor PO system. So I can click on vendor master and I can see my entire list of vendors here, right? I can also find a vendor, right? And I can also go to my purchase order system. I can type in a number, let's say 4 or 2, and it will show me the details. If I click on print, it will automatically generate a printout for me with all the data from the Excel put into a PDF file. Obviously, this was a very advanced project, but I just wanted to show you that these are the type of things that you can do. Let me just show you how much work went into it. So one was my name form, my vendor names, PO details. So if you look at the amount of code behind it, right? So there are a lot of them, right? And each one of them will have some code behind it. This one will obviously be one of the longer ones, right? So yeah, like this. And then of course there were modules and a lot of different modules that were created. So yeah. Great. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah, we show you. So if I like to just limit the age to just be integers or for the name to be only characters, what should be done in the code part?
Let's see. So I will say that I want to put the age value in the cell, correct? So I will say if the text underscore age dot value is greater than equal to, I don't know, let's say 40 is the limit, right? So if it is greater than equal to 40, then the user should be told, message box, please enter an age, or let's just say that age has to be less than 40. Okay. And then I'll say else, and then I'll do end if. This is just like we write if statements on Excel. We write if the value is greater than 40, true, otherwise false. Only the syntax you have to keep in mind. So we say that if this is the logical test, then this is the result, else this is the result. Make sense? Let me first show you how it works, then we'll go to the code. So if I enter 100, it will now tell me age has to be less than 40.
What if we enter some text message in the age, like someone forgotten and just instead of age he put his name or something like that in the box of age? So how can we stop that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can do the same thing. I can say if the text underscore age dot value is, I'll have to check once. So is numeric is equal to false, then we say that please enter number. Right. Let me just check this one. So if I enter a text value, it says age has to be less than 40. Okay, please enter number. Basically, you get the idea. So what I'm saying here is that the text.age.value, I'm checking is numeric, and I'm saying is it. These are the same thing available in Excel as well. In Excel, we have a function called is number. So if I say is number, it tells me false because this is not a number, right? So the same thing we use in VBA and on every other programming language, we write is numeric.
Okay, got it.
So these are good questions, and see, this is how you keep on adding improvements to your code, right? And this process of adding improvements on your code is called refactoring. Refactoring means that you're not changing the external behavior. What is the user form expected to do? If you put a name, you put an age, click on submit, and it enters it in column A and B. That was happening with the first code as well, but we are refactoring it to reduce the complexity, to add more enhancements, to keep some error handlers, to make sure, like, these are very important things, you know. I mean, in real life, of course, you have to keep these things in mind. Because if you don't do this data validation, I mean, then the user will find it more difficult, right? So from a user experience perspective, you absolutely have to keep these things in mind. Good. Anything else? Anyone? Right. I'm just cleaning up a little bit so that once you go back, you will not have any trouble doing this. Also, by the way, remember that macro that we did for finding the sum? Somewhat the same logic can be applied here as well. It would be a little different, but the idea is that I can make this -3 dynamic because I don't know the height of my data, so this is how I can do that. So there are different ways of doing it. Right? But for now, I'm deleting it. This is a slightly more advanced topic. So I'm giving you show my name, table of content. After that, I showed you the time saved backup. Then we have the absolute and the relative recording, and then we have our show form, and the code is in the user form itself, right? Like this. Great.
Do VBs also work with charts?
With charts?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Like you want to modify a chart?
Like in the last class, we saw an example where we made a dynamic range and we created the charts, right? So the one thing that didn't happen is the X or the Y axis change according to the range. When we choose
Yeah,
5,
absolutely, we can do that.
So we can, use VBA to automate it.
Absolutely. Can I give you an example? It's a good question. Nobody has ever asked me this question. It's a good question. Hold on. What we'll do is, I'll first take a simple data, A, B, and C, 1, 2, and 3, right? Yeah, that should work. Let's just keep it 9 as well. Okay. And we'll make a simple chart here. And what I want to do now is, please watch everybody. I will record a macro. Developer. Sorry, I have too many things there. Relative we can remove. We say record macro. And let's just call it chart axis, all right? And I press OK. Now I will double click on the axis, and rather than making it 10, I will call it as 15, right? And let's make the minimum as 0. And now I'll stop the recording. So back to developer and stop the recording. Now when we go to the code, it shows us the chart axis, right? Let's see what has been recorded. It says that in my active sheet.chart objects chart1, which is the name of the chart, I'm activating it, which is okay. Then I'm selecting the axis and I'm putting my maximum scale as 15 and my minimum scale as 0. Now very smartly, what I can do here is I can say that the minimum and the maximum should be defined by the user. See, otherwise it's so irritating, no? Every time you want to change the axis, you have to double click, then you have to go to format and change it. So I am saying, no, I want to keep it in these two cells, which is what? So just note this is the 7th row and the 3rd column, 8th row and the 3rd column. Right? So my min and max. So I will say that my min ax is coming from cells 7, 3 dot value. And same thing, I can say that my max axis is coming from 8, 3 dot value. Basically, this and so if I write 10 and 5 here, just as an example, right? Now I can say it should not be 15, it should be max ax and it should be min ax. Let's see how it works now. Let me also create a shape. We have a nice circle that I'm creating. On this, I can assign a macro. We'll call this chart axis. And if we have done everything correctly, I think I have. When I click, the axis is changing automatically. Obviously, 5 to, just hold on. Let me just try 0 to 10. One moment. Let me just change this to chart number 1 and see if that works. Let me think. Just a moment. No. Some problem is happening. 0 and 20. So I was putting the values in the wrong order. So 0 will come above and then 20. So if I say 0 to 20, if I say 0 to 100, this makes the process much easier, right? Where You don't have to go to the chart settings to change it, and this can also be connected through some other formula and all. So like I can use a formula to define what the axis should be. So I can say that what is my maximum? It should be equal to the maximum value that I have, okay, plus 5. That means in my range, whatever is the maximum value, the axis will always be 5 more than that. So this shows me 40, but if I say no, there's a value called 15, then I click, it makes it 20. Right, everyone? And see, this was a good example because we did a combination of recording and modifying. A lot of people feel that these are exclusive. We either write, like we did with the user form, or we record, or we copy from the internet. The truth is that it's always a combination of all the three things. There are certain things that you will have to record. There are certain things you can find very easily on the internet. And there are certain things that you will have to type. Like I can't record this. How can I record that the value from this box should go in that cell? All of that code has to be written by me. I can't find this on the internet, right? I can't record it. I will have to type it, right? But last row, you can't record. You can't record this. I mean, you can, but it's much easier for you to just find it on the internet. And there are certain things that can be recorded like this as well, and then modified to make it dynamic like this. Right? I hope that answers that question. Anyone? So the curiosity is very important. The moment you say, I found a code on the internet, like the table of content, and you say, it's already working, why do I need to go and fiddle around with it? You will never learn that VBA, let me tell you. You have to be curious. You have to say, you know what will happen if I change this B1 to C1? You know, what change will it make? If I remove this exit sum, what will happen? Will the code crash? Will it give me a different result, or will it give me the same result? So curiosity and fiddling is very, very important. A lot of people say, no, I want to be very safe and I don't want to take chances and do hit and trial. No, you have to. If you don't do hit and trial and if you don't try out different combinations, you will never learn a lot, because then you will only depend on what has already been given to you. Right? So to become a good coder, these are certain things that you have to do. Okay. Very quickly, we have a little bit of time. I also want to show you on Google Sheets, right? You'll be surprised to know, or maybe not, I don't know. You'll be surprised, most likely, to know that Google Sheets also has macros. Tools, right? And I have macros here. How cool is that? But this does not use Visual Basic. This uses JavaScript. Let me show you. I'll take the same data that we had, which was, have I deleted it? Doesn't matter. Let's just take something new, add it here. Tools, macros, and I can say record macro. Just like Excel, it is showing you absolute or relative. Do you see this? In fact, even if you're working with an RPA tool like Automation Anywhere, which is the largest RPA tool in the market, there also you have the concept of relative and absolute. Why am I talking about these things? To tell you that these fundamentals that you're learning, absolute, relative, comment, coding fundamentals, this is not going to restrict you just to Excel. You're learning fundamentals that will help you with all technologies, right? So even if you're working with RPA in the future, which will happen in finance a lot, you will notice that these fundamentals will hold you good, right? Let me show you. So I'm doing absolute here, right? And I will say down, down, down. I'm writing total. Then I'm writing equal to sum, and I'm saying sum. I'm sorry, sum. Array, yaar. Writing the sum. Okay, let me save it. Now, where is the environment where you can edit the script. I can go to tools, macros, and manage macros. And here I can edit my script. And you can see that this is the code that has been recorded, right? Let me delete the part that I did incorrectly so that you don't get confused. Yeah. Just give me a moment. And we are good. This also I can do. Perfect. So this is JavaScript, everyone. Proper JavaScript. You can see that it starts with a curly bracket. It ends with a curly bracket. Every line will end with a semicolon. In VBA, you don't have all this hassle. But in JavaScript, you have to end everything with a semicolon. But it should make sense. You're first creating a variable, which is the active worksheet, then which is called spreadsheet. Okay. Then what are you doing with the active worksheet? You're getting the range. You first have to select the cell, which is A4. Then you get in the current cell, you're putting a value, set value, which is total. Then you are activating B4, the cell on the right, and then you're writing a formula, which is B1 to B3. Very cool, right? Any questions on this, anyone? In fact, Google also gives you a VBA to app script converter. But Google says that if you have a VBA script with you, you can convert your VBA macros into app script. App script is what Google Sheets uses, right? And this is a very wide area, okay? So don't think, oh, it's something that only a few people require. There are books written on this, right? On how to convert VBA to Google Apps, because there is so much work that has happened in VBA, and 90% of that has been in finance, right? And then, of course, Google Sheets is used a lot. So there's a big requirement to be able to do that, right? How to shift it. Any questions, anyone on this? So please do this on Google Sheets as well. And you know why? Because this will be a wonderful opportunity for you to start your journey with JavaScript as well. And see, JavaScript is the language of the internet. Whatever you do, you will have to use JavaScript. So it's not a choice that, oh, I want to or I do not want to work on it. Even on Excel, in the next 3 to 5 years, a lot of work will shift to, if I can just show it to you, a lot of work is going to shift to JavaScript, not VBA. It's going to shift. VBA will be there, but JavaScript and TypeScript is going to make a big impact. So it's not a question of I like it, I dislike it, I want to do it or not. You have to do it. Today you might say and laugh at me saying, Havish, you're telling us to learn something when nobody else even knows about it. You will thank me 5 years later. The same thing people used to tell me with VBA as well, and with Power Query and with Power Pivot, when I, like an idiot, used to work in 2013 and 14. And then now everybody has started learning it because these tools have become more important, right? So take my word of advice. I mean well. Start learning it a little bit. I'm not asking you to be an expert on it. In fact, I am in the process of creating a course on JavaScript on using Google Sheets. I was just discussing with an intern today, as you can see, only earlier today. So we were discussing what are the things that we can do and what is the best way to teach JavaScript to people. Great. Any questions, anyone?
So when I upload a macro enabled sheet to my Google Drive, just for opening it in a Google Sheets, the macros get deleted, even the formatting as well.
Yeah, so VBA only works on Excel desktop. VBA cannot work online.
Right. But the way you show that we can convert the VBA recorded macros into app script using the first link that you suggested, going to the Google.
Yeah, I haven't done that. I don't have any personal experience doing it. So I don't think I'll be the right person to be able to comment on that. I only started working on Google Sheets very recently because I wanted to make a course on Google Sheets, right? And in this, I have just introduced what is the app script, macros, and the, recorder. I have just mentioned that there is a recorder. I never knew it. In my 15 years of experience that, oh, there is a recorder, there is a converter. So you will have to check. Maybe I can also check. I'm right now creating a advanced course. As you can see, I'm creating an advanced course on Google Apps Script. So this will take some time for me to complete.
Sure, sir.
Good. What else? Now, you might maybe not believe it, but we have covered everything in VBA. I mean, what I mean to say is that there is nothing that we have left out. I have shown you writing it. I've shown you copying and pasting it. I've shown you how to record it, and I've also shown you how to modify it. Right? After this, it is up to you to learn more, practice more, type top 100 VBA codes, one by one, copy and paste everything, and challenge yourself to learn every single one of them. Memory doesn't matter. A developer is not somebody who says, I remember everything. It's ridiculous. One reason is that you can't. And even if you can remember it, what difference does it make? Like the last row macro. Did you see that I went online and I copied it? Even though I remember it and I could have typed it, rather than typing it, it's much easier to go online and copy and paste it, isn't it? Nobody is going to pat you on the back for saying, oh, you memorized it, wonderful. That doesn't matter. What is crucial is that are you able to locate it on the internet? So if it's a competition and you have Google open and I have Google open and we have a problem statement, will you be able to find it quicker than me? That's the key here, right? Not about how much you remember, but how much you know how to find the right information, right? Any development work that you're doing, this is something you will have to always keep in mind. Great. So that completes our VBA section, everyone. I think we have covered quite a lot of ground. Of course, you will have to practice a lot afterwards. Tomorrow, we are going to start with Power Query, right? And Power Query is a completely different language. It's a completely different interface, right? The only thing I would like to check before we wrap up the session for today is whether you have the option or not. Now, some of you might be working on a very old version of Excel, in which case, I'm sorry, but I can't help you because you will not have Power Query with you. Just give me a moment. I'm just closing my Epic Pen and Excel as well. Okay. Right. So just confirm, everyone, if on Excel you have in the data tab, do you have this option called Power Query? In the data tab, do you have Power Query? Like if you have it, that's great. Is there anybody who doesn't have this option? Anyone? Do all of you have it? Power
So in
Query.
mine it's showing get external data and there is nothing like
Just,
this.
yeah, sure. So which version of Excel are you working on? Just go to File and Account and check File and Account. It should show you what version you're working on.
So it's 2016.
2016 should have it. Can you share your screen once again?
Sure.
What about 2013, sir?
So 2013, I think you should be able to install it separately. I think 2013, some versions have it, some don't. You will have to check. But I think 2016, 100% it should be there. Just share your screen, the one who has 2013, I'll tell you. Data, just click on Get External Data. Click on the arrow. Okay, and now click on New Query, the arrow, the one next to it. Yeah, you have it. So it looks a little different. What is it called? Just click outside on any cell. On any cell, yeah. It's called Get and Transform. Yeah, it's the same thing. So this is okay. The one with 2013 also, if you can share your screen. Let me check if you have it or not. See, you should really purchase 365, everyone. It's only 489 rupees a month, because if you want to work with dynamic arrays and AI features and all, I mean, you have to have it, right? And it's not a lot of money. So in data, yeah, so if you do have external data, but then you don't have Power Query with you. Just click on from other sources. What options do you have? The fourth one. Okay, you do have a few things, but yeah, this is not Power Query. It gives you a few capabilities, but not all that we would require. So you will need to have the latest version. So I'm not really sure what to say because Power Query will not work on Excel Online. Those of you who have it, you can of course work with me. The ones who don't have it, I strongly suggest please get the Microsoft subscription, 489 rupees a month or 4899 per year, right? Because that will definitely have all the latest features. So this is the one that you need. Let me just tell you. You will simply have to go online and, I'm sorry, my screen sharing, there's some problem with my graphics card. So Microsoft. Very irritating. I have two graphics cards on my system. That's the reason it crashes. Anyway, so Microsoft 365, you will go to For Home and you can see that this is the one you need. Microsoft 365 Personal, 4899 per year or 489 per month. This is exclusive of tax, so it will be some 500 something. But yeah, you will need it. Without it, you will not be able to work. I mean, if you have 2016, it will still work. But if you need all the features like dynamic arrays and all, then you should definitely have this.
So the family pack will work on the 6 PCs.
Yeah, so you can get the family one. Maybe you guys can share amongst yourself. You can get the family one, and once you create an account, you can add 5 more email accounts to it, which makes sense, right? So the cost will substantially come down that way.
Okay.
I mean, even though I don't recommend it because, fine, you might do it now, but then later you will need it. But yeah, if you want to save money, you can get this one for 6199. And then once one person can create the account, and then you can add other people to that account. So it will basically, if there are 6 people, it will just be 100 rupees a month. All right. Excellent. So that's all for today. Tomorrow we're going to start with Power Query, and yeah, so we'll take it from there. So tomorrow is Power Query. You will also have your first glimpse at Power BI because Power Query works in Power BI. Oh, hold on. What I can also do is, if you don't have Excel, the latest version, you can use Power BI. So please make sure to download Power BI, everyone, before tomorrow's session. Yeah, why did I not think of it earlier? Power BI download. Okay, please make sure to download it. You don't need to log in or do anything else. Just make sure to install the software before you come for tomorrow's session. If you have any issue, just reach back to me. Yeah, good. So that problem is also solved. Excellent. So thank you, everyone. I will see you tomorrow at 7. The files have already been shared with you. So the D03 folder has, examples that we haven't covered. So that is what we'll be using for D4 as well.
So can you please share today's files also?
I will upload it on Teachable itself.
Sure, sir.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.